I say this with all honesty and sincerity, the fact that I can have this man call into the show to talk about the passing of one of his great friends and one of his friends and one of his colleagues, the fact that I have the ability to do that, for me, if you had told me back when I was watching him on the NFL Today on CBS, I'd say you could knock me over with a feather. It is an honor, as always, to welcome Brent Musburger to the program. How are you, Brent?
Sad moment yesterday when I heard of the passing of Irv Cross. I have to say that he might have been one of the nicest people that I've ever been around, and I never heard him say an angry word about another person, a nasty comment, and I never heard anybody say anything negative about Irv. He was a special gentleman, and goodness, with the egos that I had on the show with the Greek and the former Miss America and Phyllis George, and mine was growing to a healthy level. It was so nice having the steady hand of Irv Cross.
What was it like in 1975, putting a show together with somebody, who you did know from back in the day, but Irv was essentially bringing the player's perspective to a show that was new? I mean, we all take NFL pregame shows for granted now, but you were creating something somewhat out of whole cloth back in 1975. Brent?
Yeah, of course. Rich, the big difference was we were live. Prior to the NFL Today, Pat Summerall and Jack Whitaker actually taped the pregame show for CBS Sunday on Friday afternoon before they would head out to various games. And when Bob Wessler, and he invented the NFL Today, it was his idea that it should be live. And not only that, but the halftime and the postgame shows should be live. And then he put together, first it was me and Irv. And when he checked in and suggested Irv, I couldn't believe it that I was going to be reunited with my old friend from Northwestern. And I looked forward to it. And a couple months later, Bob suggested Phyllis George, and we were all on board, and we rehearsed. And it honestly, especially with Irv, it was like we'd all been friends for a long, long time. And no problem. A year later, they added Jimmy the Greek to the mixture. And we were all, the Greek and Phyllis had their moments simply because that stemmed from Phyllis's marriage to John Y. Brown, who had been the governor of Kentucky and was the founder of KFC. And the Greek had done some PR work, and he thought he'd been shortchanged when the company went public. But whatever, that's small-time gossip. It was great. I was a total unknown, and at that time, many broadcasters who had what I want to call difficult or long last names changed their name. Jim McKay, for example, his real name was McManus. But I said, no, I'll just stick with Musburger. I wrote with it, and we will go forward. So it was a time of great excitement for me to be involved with this particular show. But as I look back, I was blessed with Irv, Phyllis, and even the Greek. And Bob Wessler made great hiring decisions. I think the key to a studio show with multiple personalities is the chemistry. And it is not something you can make up. It happens, and what happens is the audience senses it without really thinking about it, and then they become comfortable. And the NFL Today had great ratings success, and of course with Irv, the one point I want to make about Irv, just such a gentleman. We all know that, and everybody like. But I'm going to tell you, Rich, he was a terrific football player. I don't know, 7 or 8 years with the Eagles, and then 3, I think it was, with the Rams. But he went to a couple of Pro Bowls. He was an outstanding defensive back. Later coached briefly with the Eagles before turning to broadcasting. But I don't want to overlook how good an athlete Irv was. He was a hurdler, sprinter when he came out of Hammond. He'd been a track star from a huge family. 10 or 11 other children in that family, as I recall. And of course, he needed the scholarship to get to college. And in those days, you had to work. You do small jobs around the school, and that gave you some income, which are needed to pay for incidentals as time went on. I would say, probably once a week when he was doing his job, we'd stop and talk, and he knew I loved sports, and I was over at the student newspaper. And but it's one of those things that you don't think about it at the time. Now, looking back on it, we know that Irv Cross was the first African American to host a sports studio show, and Phyllis was the first woman. But honestly, in that day, we didn't even talk about it. I honestly didn't even think about it, to tell you the truth. Now, in hindsight, we look back and we see the evolution and the number of African Americans that we have now hosting the various networks, and we have so many more women who are involved. But we never thought of. I can't remember one discussion with Irv about race. We were friends. He deserved the position. He was my go-to guy when I needed. The one thing about Irv, if things were, backing up on me with all the live fire that we had, I could throw any question at him about football, and I knew that Irv would be able to handle it in some way while I would regroup and get the next command from the production truck.
And I love that, Brent. Just the fact that, because I do recall his quiet, cool demeanor, that there was really very rarely a voice raised and a certain respect that his voice and his demeanor commanded just when he opened his mouth. And that, it was a wonderful add or wonderful presence to a mix that sometimes could spin a little bit the other way, Brent.
No, absolutely. No question. The Greek would stir things up, but we always had the calmness of Irv Cross to rely on going forward. And after he left broadcasting, a lot of people probably don't realize he became athletic director at Idaho State and later at McAllister in St. Paul. So, just such a nice, always informed. Rich, I cannot remember one broadcast that he wasn't able to make it. I think Irv was there for every one of the NFL Todays, as I recall. He never took a leave of absence for anything, and he loved the NFL. There was no doubt about it. I mean, he really enjoyed everything about the league, and he knew it was growing at the time. And he would come in and watch the games when we weren't on the air. We would watch them together in the CBS studio, and he was always interested in what was going on.
Brent Musburger here on the Rich Eisen Show. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a quick question about the Raiders, whose games you broadcast on the radio, and certainly for Rich Eisen Show radio affiliate, Raider Nation Radio in Las Vegas, Nevada. That the starting quarterback for the Raiders in 2021 taking the first snap would be, you want to fill in that blank?
Derek Carr. Derek Carr.
No question.
Derek Carr.
No question.
Okay. In fact, I have to tell you that I'm a little disappointed by the continuing chatter about the Raiders. Deshaun Watson's name, of course, came up, and it's possible he'd be moving on from Houston. Derek Carr's offense was more productive than Deshaun Watson. Now, I'm not saying that Derek Carr is a better prospect. I'm not saying that. But people need to look at what Derek accomplished last year with the 8 wins. The problem that they lost 8 games was never on Derek Carr. It is completely on the Raider defense. And had that defense played better, especially in a couple of games that come immediately to my mind, they would have been in the playoffs. I'm not sure that they would have been able to advance out of the wild card round. But Derek Carr was a playoff quarterback last year. And if they wish to make a move, it would be in the backup spot, Rich. It's not. It doesn't make any sense at all for the Raiders to spend a lot of what's going to be a reduced salary cap or something else on a new quarterback. And I'm a little disappointed in the local press in Las Vegas in not really supporting him and what he was able to accomplish last year with his team. The problem with the Raiders is on the defensive side of the ball. They have a new administration, new coaching staff over there, but they have misfired on their draft choices, and they have misfired on their free agent signings, and they need to correct that going forward. Now, they were able to split with the Chiefs, and the truth is, if they were able to play defense last year, they would have swept the Chiefs.
Right. Then that's the reason.
43, Patrick Mahomes takes over, one timeout. They can't stop him. They couldn't stop the Miami Dolphins with a horrendous penny coming down the stretch.
Oh, gosh.
Derek Carr had him ahead. He had him ahead in both those games. He did his job.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe the reason why Carr is being discussed is because that, has happened in the past, even though Carr had a terrific season, that we're seeing no sacred cows in the NFL across the landscape here. And because I've pegged it as the Tom Brady effect, that every team has seen that they could be one player away, and obviously there's only one Brady, but if you do get the right quarterback in, maybe you upgrade, and or you're a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, and you're seeing what just happened with Brady after staying in one spot all this time, that maybe you're wondering that for you something better can be had somewhere else after all. I mean, it just is amazing. What I'm wondering if you can compare it to anything in an off season. In
Brady's case, Rich, he performed more like a general manager quarterback. Every point scored by the Buccaneers in their Super Bowl win,
right,
by a player who was not there the previous season, and Brady had a hand in bringing three of them, all the touchdown scores in. The Gronk, obviously, he comes back because Brady's there. Antonio Brown, who had played briefly, he comes back because he even stayed at Brady's house for a time up in New England. And as I read, Brady was one who called Leonard Fournette when he was on the street. So Brady did a lot more than just play quarterback. And now it has come out that during the week in the build-up, he actually texted every one of his teammates and guaranteed that they would win the game. He was far more than just an ordinary quarterback signed by the Buccaneers. And congratulations to him. He obviously wanted to accomplish what Peyton Manning did with the Denver Broncos, and he did it. What's interesting to me is all the gossip. Now, Deshaun Watson's not gossip. That's confirmed. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I can tell, a lot of the Russell Wilson chatter is coming from an agent and not Russell. I've known Russell Wilson for a long, long time, and he's a really, really solid guy. And I can't believe that he's causing the organization internal problems. He may have been unhappy with some of the free agent signings in the offensive line in particular, but I would be very, very surprised if the Seahawks are shopping Russell Wilson right now. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of cat. He likes his own attention, and his name was thrown out there. But I think that the two quarterbacks that have been confirmed, obviously Deshaun Watson. Obviously Houston has to make a decision down there. And it sounds to me like the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears, so I make it three now, are definitely shopping for a quarterback. I can't get a good read on Sam Darnold and the Jets. I suppose if Watson was shipped to the Jets, they could send Darnold down along with that second pick in the draft and go from there. But, it's that time of season. It's the silly season, as we call it.
Yes.
I've called it for a long time in baseball. If you go back and look every year at the rumors, especially about the quarterbacks, there are going to be some out there. And of course, the Rams and the Lions kicking things off with their big trade. I think that helped move the narrative along. But as far as I'm concerned, and I've watched for 3 years, and I don't get this criticism of Derek Carr. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, maybe not. But he's a winning quarterback. You don't have to worry about that spot. But the Raiders have to worry about the defensive personnel.
Brent, I've really cherished the time once again. My condolence on the loss of your friend and longtime colleague in Irv Cross. And before I let you go, you mentioned early in your career that you were considering shortening your name. Do you remember the names that you were kicking around?
I would have used my middle name, Woody. My mother's maiden name.
So Brent Woody would have been, you were looking live with Brent Woody.
Yep, that would have been it, lad.
Oh, I think you'd made the right choice, Brent.
I do too.
Smart move, Brent.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care, Brent.
Rich. Have a great day.
You got to take care. Brent Musburger, everybody.
The best. Yeah, Brent Woody doesn't hit as much.
Brent Woody. No. But you know, the look you gave, you didn't remember. You didn't know that Jim McKay was Jim McManus.
I had no.
Well, and the CBS Sports president executive is Jim McKay's son. You didn't know that, huh? No, you didn't know that. It's okay. You can admit it. You can admit you don't know everything about the industry. It's okay.
I don't know everything.
But yeah. How about that? Brent Woody, everybody.
Not as good.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.